Mastermind, Strategist for Hire. Written by Clouds, My Head in the Clouds, Not Coming Down. And read by Eleanor Elizabeth. Chapter 15. Shoto.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Sports Festival! Can I get a plus ultra?
Present Mike's booming voice could be heard even from the sidewalk outside the stadium, and Izuku shook his head. Heroes. Honestly, Izuku didn't know why they were still holding the festival this year after All Might had been killed on school grounds. But the principal had held a press conference a few days after the funeral announcing that they would continue as planned. Something about how, with the symbol of peace gone, it fell to the rising generation to bring hope to the world, or something like that. Well, at least Izuku could get some good intel on the quirks he'd be facing in a few years. He wished he'd had that info before the USJ attack, but oh well, better late than never. He walked past dozens of pro-heroes as he went through the heightened security, but no one gave a kid in a t-shirt and jeans a second glance. He smiled and found a seat. Mastermind was here, in their midst, and the heroes would never know. His mom had been so excited when he told her a friend had won tickets and invited him to go. They'd never had the money to afford it before, but Izuku hadn't had a shortage of cash since he'd become a villain. Too bad his mom didn't know about his secret funds, hence the cover story. He wished he could have brought Himiko, but a suspected serial killer couldn't exactly sneak past security.
Alright, let's welcome the students who faced a villain attack and survived, the same students that All Might gave his life for, Class 1A!
The stadium erupted into cheers, and Izuku watched the familiar students stride into the stadium. They looked vaguely uncomfortable. They probably didn't like the reminder of watching the number one hero die. It must have been traumatic. Izuku squashed the feelings of guilt that tried to choke him. They were heroes. They had been given everything in life just because of their quirks, while Izuku's life had been nothing but trauma. They deserved a little trauma after what they had put him through. Watching All Might die in front of them was just payback. He was excited to see what the purple-haired student's quirk actually was. He figured it was verbal response triggered, considering his defiant behaviour at the USJ, but the question remained of whether it put someone to sleep, like Midnight's quirk, or was somehow more involved. He was also excited for the Half and Half Boy's quirk, since he was one of the few that managed to fight back during the attack, and against the Nomu too. Izuku smiled darkly as he watched Katsuki climb the steps to give his opening speech. There was always the possibility that Katsuki would be injured in one of his matches, but Izuku knew he shouldn't get his hopes up.
I just want to say, All Might was an amazing hero. We owe it to him to give it our all. And that's why I'm gonna win this thing.
Izuku rolled his eyes as the other students booed. Of course, Katsuki would manage to compliment All Might and insult his competitors all in one breath. His old bully would never change, would he? The first round was interesting, but not surprising. It was a surprise to learn that the Half and Half Boy was Todoroki Shoto, the son of Endeavor. He managed to freeze most of the competition and narrowly beat out Katsuki as the winner of the round. Izuku leaned forward as he watched Todoroki glare blankly at the crowd as Katsuki lost it. His colouring was very distinct, and he'd only ever created ice from his right side. So, could he do it from his left? Izuku pulled out a notebook and began to write down his thoughts. It wouldn't surprise him at all if Todoroki had some kind of hybrid quirk. Unfair, but not unheard of. Maybe he could create ice from the right side of his body, the white-haired side, and fire from his left. If that was the case, then why hadn't he showed off his fire side yet? It would have made so much more sense to melt through the robots, or use fire to propel himself like Katsuki did. But Todoroki only used his ice. Interesting. The next round gave Izuku a good chance to evaluate the purple-haired boy's quirk. His name was Shinzo, at least according to the scoreboard. Izuku watched as he took advantage of the other teams as they targeted Todoroki. He would approach them as if he wanted to team up, but then the other team would simply hand over their points without a fight. So, some sort of brainwashing, not just putting them in a daze. Izuku wondered how complicated the commands could be. It was a useful quirk. Shame it had to go to a hero. In the end, Todoroki, Katsuki, and Shinzo all moved on, as well as another team comprised mostly of 1A members plus a support student. And still, Todoroki didn't use his fire. Izuku knew he had it now. He'd seen it ignite briefly once when Katsuki had gotten too close, but Todoroki had looked angry and extinguished it almost immediately. His mastery of his ice was amazing, but Izuku couldn't help but wonder how powerful he could be if he stopped ignoring his left side. He put his notebook away, stretched, and headed for the student areas. He'd never been very good at ignoring his curiosity, had he? Sneaking past the guards was almost too easy, even if they were pro-heroes, and Izuku walked confidently as he searched for Todoroki. If he was caught, he could just say he was looking for Ka-chan and that they were old friends. Sneaking backstage to see him and wish him good luck was something the old Izuku would have done, no question.
"You're such a disgrace, Shoto."
Izuku ducked behind a wall as he heard Endeavor's voice.
"There wouldn't even be a question of your position if you were to use the fire I gave you."
"I will never use your fire." Todoroki's voice was tight with anger.
"I will make it to the top, but I'll do it without your quirk. Seriously, Shoto, I indulged you when you were younger, but it's time you gave up on this childish tantrum."
Even from his place around the corner, Izuku could see his breath as the temperature dropped.
"It's time for you to go, father. The tournament will be starting soon."
Izuku flattened himself against the wall as Endeavor stalked past him, radiating heat. The hero didn't even glance his way, just disappeared down the hall. Izuku waited a moment before turning the corner. It might not be the best timing, but he didn't want to lose his chance to talk to Todoroki. Shoto's eyes widened slightly as a short boy with green hair, obviously a civilian, came into view. This area was supposed to be off-limits for spectators. Endeavor had gotten past security by virtue of being the new #1 hero, but this was just a normal kid, so how did he get back here? Was he a threat? Shoto relaxed slightly when the kid gave him a brilliant smile. Anyone who could smile like that couldn't be dangerous. "Hello, Todoroki?" the boy asked nervously. Shoto nodded and the boy smiled. "You're doing really well so far. Your skills are amazing. I especially loved how you beat out Katsuki in the last 2 rounds. Shoto raised one eyebrow.
"Katsuki?"
The boy's expression soured slightly. "Interesting. Katsuki Bakugo? We've known each other since we were kids." He smiled again. "Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Izuku Midoriya." Shoto nodded.
"Why are you back here?"
Midoriya rubbed the back of his neck. "I actually have a question for you. You're obviously pretty powerful with just your ice, but you have a fire quirk as well, right? Why don't you use it?" Shoto scowled and then turned away.
"My father put you up to this, didn't he?"
Midoriya grabbed his arm. He was stronger than he looked. "No, I was just curious and I wanted to know because I thought it was interesting. Not that I'm gonna try and force you to use your fire. I was just wondering and—" He trailed off and stood there awkwardly. Shoto didn't know if it was just one thing, but for some reason he felt like he could trust Midoriya. Maybe it was his face when he talked about Bakugo, but for some reason Shoto thought that if anyone could understand what he was going through, it would be this boy he'd barely met. He sighed and leaned against the wall.
"Have you ever heard of quirk marriages?"
Midoriya's eyes widened in realization. "No."
Shoto nodded sadly. "My father always wanted to be #1. I guess he is now, but he wanted to be #1 because of his power, not because All Might got himself killed. He had enough money and power as the #2 hero to buy off my mother's family and force her into a marriage. He got her pregnant multiple times, trying to create a child with a quirk strong enough to beat All Might. He raised me to be his masterpiece, not his son."
Midoriya was listening with wide eyes, and Shoto took a deep breath. It felt liberating to finally talk about this.
"In every memory I have of my mother, she's always crying. She called my left side unbearable, right before she poured boiling water on my face. I never blamed her though. It was all my father's fault for forcing her to that point."
Midoriya was staring at him strangely. "You must hate your father then." Shoto thought for a moment. Midoriya had said it like a statement, rather than a question, but he wanted to answer it anyway.
Did he hate his father? He thought about the rage he buried under a layer of ice, about the fear he felt when he thought about using his fire. Is that what hate felt like? Yes, he said firmly. I think I really do hate him. Midoriya nodded. I think that's good then. I understand why you don't want to use your fire. But just so you know, it's your quirk, not his. And you can always use it to do things your father would hate. Good luck, Todoroki. Crush Katsuki for me. And with that, Midoriya waved and left Todoroki to make his way back to his classmates. Where'd you go, you half-and-half bastard? Bakugo yelled. I looked everywhere for you and I couldn't find you. Shoto felt consumed by the hatred he'd just realized he felt, and it left him numb as he thought about Midoriya's words. I ran into an old friend of yours. Friend? Ashido laughed. Bakugo had friends before you, eh? Shut up, Pinky! Bakugo yelled. Who was it? Izuku Midoriya. He's interesting. Bakugo sneered. Deku? He's worthless and he is not my friend. I'd never sink low enough to be that idiot's friend. Shoto nodded absently. I liked him. He then tuned out any response Bakugo had and the laughter of their other classmates. He had a lot to think about. Hey there, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. It's Ella, and I hope you are still having a lovely day today. Did y'all really think I was going to leave you hanging with no Mastermind content for like a whole 25 days? I could never. So, here's some more. It's a double upload day. Yes, I will hold for applause. But what did you think of this chapter? Did you like it? I loved it. I think it's great. We're getting to see some like Izuku Shoto interactions. Get to like fuck Endeavor. Little bitch ass. It was fun to voice him. I don't think I've ever voiced Endeavor before, so that was fun. But be sure to let me know about your thoughts down in the comment section below. You could also like the video, if you liked it, and to boost my serotonin levels. You can also subscribe to be notified whenever I make new videos, which at the moment is very daily because I am making Christmassy themed fics every day in the lead up to Christmas. How exciting. Also, if you didn't know, I now have a Discord server. I will put the link in the description down below. If you want to join and hang out and chat with us, it's a great time. It's a great community. I love everyone in there. Though she is still unnamed, so please give me name suggestions for the Discord because I don't know what to call it that is like relevant but like also, I don't know, I feel weird putting my name in it, but I don't know if that's just because it's me and I feel self-conscious about doing that myself. But go ahead and leave your suggestions down below. We might put it to a poll if there's a couple of good options. But until I see you again, tomorrow, to continue on Figmas, be sure to practice some self-care. Go to bed on time. Brush your teeth. Guzzle down that fucking water. Yeah. Hydration. Eat your 5 a day. I'll know if you haven't eaten your fruit and veg. You know why? Because I'm a collected mother now, okay? I've got mum brain. Raising my pigeon gave me mum brain. Yes. This is a threat. I will catch you guys laters.